In this week's video, we're going to cover several reasons why you might want to think about getting a concentricity gauge if you don't already have one, and compare these three examples to see which one might be the best one for you. Stick around. Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, we're going to be covering these three models. When it comes to picking a concentricity gauge, there are actually quite a few options, which is a good problem to have. In today's video, we're going to kind of look at some of the basic options that are out there. There's many more than this, but give you a general idea in a concentricity gauge what you should be looking for, if there's any bonus features that some are going to give you and some aren't. In today's video, I'm hoping to educate you on all the different options and features in each one of these models so you can make a better educated decision on which one might be right for you. So make sure if you're interested in a concentricity gauge, you stick around to the end to see how all of these compare. There's actually lots of info about each one of these. I'm not going to demonstrate every single feature because that would frankly take too long. But in today's video, I'm hoping to let you compare the feature sets, give you some pluses and minuses of each one. Every single one of these is unique and has its own pluses and minuses, and we're going to try and cover those today. Before we start, let's think about why we actually want to pick up a concentricity gauge. The first reason why you might want to look at getting a concentricity gauge is to evaluate your reloading process in ways you weren't able to before. Being able to evaluate runout is very important for making sure your die alignment is correct and your reloading process is working the way you think it should, both for case sizing and seating your projectiles. The second reason why you might want to think about getting a concentricity gauge is to be able to troubleshoot dimensional issues when you're sizing your cases. Very frequently, your concentricity will be very, very good on fired brass. It might honestly be the best it's ever going to be. So through our reloading process, we want to make sure we don't do anything to make that number worse than it already is. In my reloading process, I actually size the outside of the case as a step, the inside of the case as another step, and I like to take at least one measurement after each one of those steps to make sure my die setting is working the way I think it is, to make sure my expander mandrel is working the way I think it is, and the runout on the case is in an acceptable place. If somehow my die setting was messed up, I don't want to end up sizing an entire lot of cases and find out there's an issue with runout. The third reason, actually evaluating reloading process. You might make data-based decisions on why you do certain things. In my reloading process, I actually remove the expander balls from the dies when I'm using them, and I use expander mandrels as a different step. I found that by doing this as two separate steps and by actually not using the expander ball, that I've been able to set the neck tension to exactly what I want and improve my concentricity drastically. But whatever your reason is, it's going to give you actual data to tell you any changes you make and how it's going to be reflected in the dimensions of your sized cases and loaded ammunition. The fourth reason you might want to pick one of these up is, frankly, tools are just fun, and sometimes they help you understand things better. Unfortunately, once you get one, you might realize you wished you would have had it a long time ago. Until you start taking these measurements, you might not know how good or bad your actual reloading process is. Sometimes it's very hard to evaluate these things without the correct tool. It's difficult to know how fast you're driving if you can't see the speedometer in your car. Same thing goes for concentricity. Now, as far as our valuing our models today, we actually have the Hornady Concentricity tool, the Case Master from RCBS, as well as the Concentricity Gauge from Sinclair. To be as fair as possible, we're actually going to talk about them today in the order I purchased them, which is going to be Hornady first, RCBS second, Sinclair third. Let's start by taking a look at the Hornady model. The Hornady Concentricity Gauge comes basically how you see it here, but in this configuration, it's a little more difficult to see, so let's tip it up. The Concentricity Gauge doesn't itself come on this base plate. This is from inline fabrication. Now, as far as price is concerned, Hornady's coming in somewhere in the ballpark when I last looked around $125. As time goes on, this may change. According to Hornady, keep in mind, this tool identifies and eliminates bullet runout or wobble. Just place ammunition in the tool, roll it, identify runout, and use the dial indicator thumb screw to adjust. With this gauge, you can measure on the brass or on the projectile, however you like. However, one of the downfalls is you can't actually measure on the neck until you have a projectile loaded in it, which is not the point in time in my reloading process that I want to find out that my sizing die is inducing runout. By adjusting this screw, we can move our indicator over slightly and measure it right on the projectile, which is where most people will tell you to measure a loaded round concentricity. You can zero out the indicator if you want. Typically, I don't bother. I'm looking for extreme movement of the needle from the high to low spot. And as we turn this around, we're going to see that there's maybe 1/1000th to run out, which is as good as I can hope for and everything I'm looking for in my reloads. Hornady is insinuating in this case, if you're unimpressed with the runout numbers, you can actually run this turn screw in and push on your projectile to correct any dimensional inaccuracies that might be there. I don't necessarily recommend it. I personally don't use it for this. But when Hornady says that this provides improved accuracy for hand loaders and it can be used to true up factory ammunition as well, that's what they mean. Whether you choose to use it for that is up to you. Hornady's feature list says universal centers ensure precise alignment of most bottleneck cartridges from 22 caliber to 45 caliber with the included inserts. That comes with 3 total. Easy to precision knobs allow you to true up the runout on any cartridge. Sturdy frame can be bolted to your bench. One thing I do want to mention, there's also the option for adding a case thickness gauge. The case thickness gauge actually adds these 3 pieces and allows you to change out this insert and put in different inserts depending on the diameter of your case. It also includes a different dial indicator, which has the same 1-inch total travel that the original one does. However, the slash marks actually represent a 1/2 thousandth in between marks, not the 1,000th that in between marks that the original dial indicator comes with. So technically, I believe you could call it a higher accuracy dial indicator, but whatever you want to think of it as, that's what the kit comes with. I'll throw up the current price that I found on Amazon for on the screen. I think it was a little over $60. This will allow you to measure the thickness. I'm not sure how good it really works for this task. If you're looking to see how much case thickness variation you have in it, these aren't precision ground inserts. It will give you a reasonable measurement to know how thick it is if you really want to know the thickness, but there's going to be a little variation in it. And overall, I wasn't overly thrilled with it. If you really want to know your case wall thickness, I recommend you getting something like this ball micrometer from RCBS. This is going to be able to give you much more reliable and trusted information. And I don't think it's significantly different in cost than that actual add-on. But in a nutshell, this is the Hornady case. Let's move on to the RCBS. Now, this is the RCBS Case Master gauging tool. Depending on where you look, you might find it for somewhere in the ballpark of $135 to $146. According to RCBS, the RCBS Case Master Concentricity tool is designed to help reloaders create the most accurate ammunition possible. This tool easily measures neck concentricity, uniformity, thickness, and bullet runout to ensure that all reloading equipment is set up to produce the most accurate rounds possible. This tool can also be used to detect head separations before any symptoms are apparent on the outside of the case. This RCBS Case Master was actually the second one that I purchased, and you might wonder why. If you already have a concentricity gauge, why were you interested in this? Well, this has a couple different features, and I alluded to its biggest draw when I was talking about the Hornady case. The Hornady Concentricity Gauge doesn't allow you to take a case that doesn't have a projectile in it and actually look at the concentricity on the neck of the case before you've loaded a projectile. In my opinion, this is very important. And this tool made tracking down the problems in my setup much easier and quicker. It allows me to look at the brass at every single process. If I want to move this, I can spin it in the middle of the case to see if I have a out of round issue, possibly in my chamber where it's kind of getting a banana form on the case. Most of the time I found myself just being able to measure the neck of the case and to see the run out was at an acceptable level. The biggest frustration with this tool is sometimes when you move your finger, you'll induce a little bit of measurement in your dial indicator. Just be very conscious of when you're spinning it, and you can see what is your effect versus what is. You can see that this case has less than 1,000th of run out in it. Through other setup, you can actually measure all the things that it talks about. I'm not a big fan of using it to measure the case wall thickness, though you can use it for it and get a relatively rough value. But one of the bigger reasons why I like this is actually looking for case head separations. With the little pointy end that's on here, you can take your case in there, but running that along there will help you identify case head separations before they happen. Because you may think you'll be able to see it on the outside, but you can actually feel it on the inside of this case. I don't have it cut in half, but this is from a lot of brass that I was having a case head separation issue with. You might be able to see it slightly on that case. However, by using the Case Master, you can drag it across there, you can feel the brass thinning, and you'll know that we're not going to use these cases anymore. But I do keep these around for examples, and I keep them in a bag that's clearly labeled. So, with all these features and how nice it worked, you might ask, why do you need anything else? And that's a reasonable question. You might notice on here that on the guide, these are just a V, and I'm not complaining about it, it's just the design. But this is kind of a softer aluminum material, and occasionally I find cases stick on here or don't rotate as nicely. This Concentricity Gauge has seen a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor rounds through there, and if I take another case around there, sometimes it doesn't flow as smoothly. And I like tools, right? So since it was wearing funny, I thought I might give a higher end tool a try and see how it worked. But again, I still keep it around, I still use it, and it's pretty functional. The Sinclair Concentricity Gauge runs for a normal price of around $120. I believe that I actually picked up this model for either $90 or $100 when it was on sale and after a coupon code. According to Sinclair, of course, they believe their Concentricity gauge is the easiest to use and the most accurate gauge of its kind on the market. Precision made for a lifetime of use, the Sinclair Concentricity gauge will accept all cases up to 50 BMG. This gauge is used to measure runout by rotating the case or loaded round on two of the bearings that are captured in anodized aluminum blocks. These bearing blocks are adjustable longitudinally to allow different case lengths for varying lengths of loaded rounds. The hand loader can measure sized cases on the neck, measure loaded rounds on the neck or out on the bullet. The bearing blocks ride in this milled slot, and the milled slot helps them keep perfect alignment with each other. This arrangement provides the best support for the cartridge, enabling the user to spin the cartridge smoothly. Large thumb levers allow the bearing blocks to make adjustments quick and easily. The anodized base plate is extremely stable, allowing the user to take accurate readings. The indicator tower is designed to permit vertical and side-to-side adjustment of the dial indicator. The mounting block for the dial indicator is designed to accommodate dial indicators with a standard 0.37 mount. You can actually buy this without the dial indicator if you already have one, but I wanted to evaluate Sinclair's offering. You actually can get a digital one, but when it comes to runout, I honestly prefer analog. It's up to you, whatever you desire. According to Sinclair, this is a quality measuring tool for a serious precision reloader. So that commercial out of the way, let's kind of take a quick look. It's going to be very similar to RCBS, and Concentricity is the only thing we're really going to be doing with this, but it does do a good job. I haven't used it a ton yet, but the hardened bearing surfaces on here I'm optimistic are going to hold up better than anodized aluminum block that RCBS comes with. Now, the dial indicator that comes with this is a total 1-inch measurement. I meant to mention that the RCBS actually comes with only a 0.3 of an inch total range measurement. Not that you need any more, it's fine. To try and make it a little bit easier for you guys, I'll try and zero it out. And you can see it's hard to work around the camera, but it's easier to move this smoothly on the bearings. And you can see that this load around actually has less than 1/1000th to run out. It's very smooth, easy to use, and very sturdy. So if you want just a Concentricity gauge, you want a very high quality model that's not going to mark, this might be something you want to look at. There are certainly higher end ones, 21st Century Reloading, Nico, and probably countless others. If we're talking about Concentricity gauges in the $100 range, this is what you're going to get from Sinclair. It's a very nice model, but if you're interested in trying to correct the concentricity, it's not going to do that. If you're looking for a tool that's going to measure case head separations, it's not going to do that as well. So that's a Sinclair unit in a nutshell. Let's get them back all on the table and talk about selection. Depending on your needs, it's going to depend which model you might be right for you. If you don't reload and you're only interested in trying to correct factory ammunition, the Hornady is going to be your only option that I'm aware of to do such things. If checking for case head separations is something you'd like to do and you want to be able to have a tool that advertises that it can do that, the RCBS might be right down your road. Somebody else in the comments will be happy to tell you another tool you can use that doesn't involve that. But again, there's pluses and minuses to every single one of these. If you're looking strictly for only a concentricity device, for the price and the quality of the unit that you get, I think that's very hard to beat the Sinclair. Has a relatively small footprint overall and works really well. If price is no object, neither one of these three is going to be on your thing. Probably something like the 21st Century will be on your list. I think every single one of these has merits depending on your reloading style. Links to the RCBS and the Hornady will be in the description box below. I'll also add a link to the case wall thickness gauge if you're interested in adding that to the Hornady tool. I will tell you, the RCBS ball micrometer, I do think overall is a better option. But if you're trying to integrate every single thing into one tool, it's certainly up to you. Another thing of note is Hornady actually has a precision measurement station that they've released this year. It's significantly more expensive than any of these options. If you're looking for an all-in-one unit and you're looking to spend a little bit more money, that might be an option you'll look at. I'll put a link to that in the description box below as well. If concentricity of your devices are important to you, I'm going to put a link up to a video you might want to check out where I evaluate different dies and how the concentricity performs with different die settings. YouTube will put a couple of videos up that you might be interested in. If you've got any questions about today's video, make sure you put that in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this week's video. I hope to see you come back next week. And until then, stay safe in small groups.